been injured, don't settle for a lawyer who doesn't even know where you live. Call Langston and Lott. Local lawyers, personal service, real results.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off, no tax, 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
Mississippi's trusted weather experts. This is Mississippi Live Weather at 6.
Well, welcome into Mississippi Live Weather at 6 here. We've talked a lot today. We have not finished a whole lot of forecasts today, but we've gotten hopefully a decent amount of information to you. And we do continue to have new information as we go into this evening here. We hope that you guys are warm enough. We're hoping the power comes on sooner than expected. But I think, as you probably know, there's a lot of us, including us here in the Lopon house, they're going to be without power for a while. And it's easy to say that. Well, clearly there's some stuff working here. I'm running my truck down little bit by little bit. And so there's a time where we can't even do this as well. But we're going to do our best. We're going to get through this. And unfortunately, between now and the end of this, we do have some significant issues. Sustained power outages are likely. In talking to different officials from the Northern District Public Service Commissioner, I did talk to Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith earlier, and numerous other people that know, like the mayor of Oxford, Robin Tannehill. In some of these communities, this will be weeks before things are fully repaired. So sustained power outages are likely. If you're in the dark tonight, some of us will be in the dark a week from now, and even a few of us a week after that, in all likelihood. And we do have some uphill battles, even when we start about some of the bigger infrastructure. More on that as we talk about power outages again in more detail here in a minute. Extremely dangerous cold tonight. And this could not be a worse combination. We have people in Mississippi, and God bless us, but cold is not our thing. And we're going to have what would be some of the coldest nights we would see any year, if not a multi-year time period. And we have them lined up. Well, every single day in the next week, we are best case scenario teens. That is risky. That is scary. I mean, even to me, and I know that we do have natural gas in there, and we have a fireplace that is vented to the outside. So we're in better cases than others, but this is going to be, we will be, I said this on Fox Weather earlier, incredibly blessed if nobody dies from this event, from the cold end of it, and we'll be really blessed if it's not quite a few people. So dangerous cold blooms beyond the extended forecast all throughout the next week. Unfortunately, that is one of our big weather stories. And tonight, as you can see, it's already unfolding as cold air spills in from the north and west. We're 20 at 7 p.m., 17 as we look toward 10, 16 by around 1 o'clock in the morning, and down 13 by 4 a.m., 11 as we look towards 7 o'clock. It is very chilly out there. And for a lot of us, those roadways, which were wet earlier, are already refreezing and becoming nearly impassable. I was talking to a noted storm chaser, Brett Adair, here in the southeast. He was up in, he tracked from Tunica County all the way, and he was in Tishomingo County. It's taken basically all day to go that stretch of, and he's somebody who drives all over the country at this. So travel remains extremely impacted because of the conditions. We've been showing this, I say now through Sunday. I forgot to change the text at the top. This is through tomorrow and maybe the next couple of days. I would say through tomorrow that additional tree damage remains possible. And you're like, well, how is that the case considering, I mean, it's done. The problem is we have some winds that have picked up, and you've probably noticed this. At least I did. I've been outside for very brief periods of time, and the wind, crackling through the trees, it is an eerie feeling on top of the trees just popping still. So we're going to continue to have tree damage, and that means power damage from those trees for at least probably the next 12 hours, so maybe 24 hours. And then the freezing temperatures for 2 days straight, but every one of these mornings is going to continue to be extremely cold. We'll look at Mama Justice Doppler radar close in. I'm going to look at something else in analysis mode before we come back to that here in a moment. And as I kind of take it into clear air mode, I've seen it come up in the comments there, and we do encourage you again in the chat here to share your thoughts as you have so many times over the course of the last couple of days. But we are in clear air mode, and a lot of what you see here is not real, but some of this, as you put this on a loop, actually is some very, very light snowflakes kind of moving in, drifting in from northwest to southeast across North Mississippi. So for those folks that prayed for snow, a couple flurries, this is not accumulating, but it is a sign of just how cold it is. And yeah, I see Deborah talking about a tree limb crashed through her husband's truck. And mention those flurries there in Fairview. Yeah, that's true, but this is not accumulating sort of stuff. This is going to be pretty light. And as we check out, again, the cameras with the North Mississippi Storm Chasers in the Tupelo area, I'm going to kind of start out with that one there, one of the spots where we still do have some visibility. That same icicle we've seen pretty much all day, still there. And unfortunately, as temperatures drop tonight, we're already at 19. That's actually faster on the drop than what I had it, meaning it's more likely that maybe we get down again single digits even in the Tupelo area tonight. More likely to see it tomorrow night, but obviously some very, very cold air in play with this storm system. The power outages, though, that is the real story that again, will continue to impact so many folks. And I hate the fact that, again, this graphic here that we've been showing misses out on some of it. And we do, again, have some clarification. In talking with Northern District Public Service Commissioner Chris Brown, we talked at length about some of the sustained power outages, especially up here in the northern part of the state. A TVA, basically main trunk line for electricity coming in, had catastrophic failure. It's going to take replacing, and the problem is that makes it to where some electric power cooperatives up here, in this northern tier, that again, we're basically completely out of power in a lot of spots in these 4 counties here, back also into Benton County as well. Until they replace that, no matter how many houses and lines and everything are picked up and put back by the local power cooperatives, TVA's got to get that line fixed. And that's not going to be a swift process. That's going to take a little while. And so that means we're talking about, in some cases, entire communities without power for a number of days. You might be talking a week. And so there are some concerns that go along with that. There's a finite amount of time that these cell phone towers that you're probably pinging to pick up your internet from are going to be able to have their generators going. Once the fuel runs out on those, they're going to go down, and hopefully that's something that they're maintaining or they have a plan for. But same thing goes for, again, water towers from time to time. So that's why it's important to make sure that while those pumps are still going, while there's still electricity there, that you do have water bottles. We did that last night. We have a bunch of water bottles sitting on the island here just in case that happens, and hopefully you stocked up on water as well. So there are some contingencies here, some other things that are concerning, and we do know that there are a lot of local areas that do have warming stations involved. Not full-blown warming shelters, but warming stations. But one thing that did stick out to me in talking to some of the folks, including, again, Northern District Public Service Commissioner Chris Brown, when I asked him, okay, if we feel like we're up against a life-threatening situation, I mentioned a minute ago, I think that some people probably die in this because of the cold. When I asked them, what do people do if they need to do that? And they said, you need to call 911. And in particular, that was in reference to elderly. I'm very concerned that certain homebound and elderly people that you and I know could end up perishing because of just how cold this is. So we need to check on our people. The problem is tonight, as roads continue to degrade, that's not something we can really do, because the roads that might have been dampened for a lot of us were okay through a chunk of this event, they're going to ice over hard tonight. That process is actually already starting at this point in time. If I show you the temperatures here across much of North Mississippi, they are unpleasant, is just the kindest word I can say. I mean, we're already down to 16 there. We show back in Tate County, back in Panola County, Union County, Lee County. Again, we're in the teens here, and there's even colder air not that far removed back to the north and west. Behind my head there, we're looking at single digits, and this is all flowing in behind this storm system, and we'll move in over the next couple of days, and we'll set up shop. We are not going to see things improving really anytime soon, temperature-wise. So again, we have the flurries out there. Today's system moving away. Again, a ton of cold air behind this, and as crazy as it is, again, severe weather running ahead of this for locations down there closer to the Gulf Coast. When we look at all of the reports that have come in from this, it's going to take my system a while to chug through. This was a large-scale impact, which is part of what is going to take so long for things to recover, is because it's not just us. But in talking to some folks, we're kind of the epicenter of this. One renowned storm chaser, that one I mentioned, Brett Adair, that was going along 72 earlier on, said that some of the ice that he saw up there near Burnsville, some of the most significant ice he's ever seen. And this guy, he chases all over the place. So cold air is the story. There's still some flakes behind this, locations back into Texas, believe it or not. And as we look at Futurecast, again, that does show that next little wave tries to convert that over to some green. I don't know about that when it's out there into Arkansas, but I don't think it's impossible to get a couple rogue flakes over top of us associated with that as kind of rolls in overnight. Again, this is not additional significant accumulation. What even some of our more minor ice accumulations were today and last night and yesterday are what a typically pretty decent ice storm is around here, unfortunately. So we have just experienced a very, very high-end ice event. And comparisons, like everyone's wanted to ask the question all week long, what about 94? Well, this wasn't 94, but it might have been worse in some spots than 94 was. At least that's kind of the consensus in talking to people that would understand this very closely and know and paid very close attention to 94. And that obviously is a lot of us here. So 12 on the average tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. It is extremely, bitterly, dangerously cold. What do you need to do about this? You need to make sure to huddle up together. Hey, this is a snuggle sort of night because other folks with 98.6 degree body temperatures are going to be around as well. We kind of need to get together and try to stay together and stay warm, but we also need to layer up because in your house, again, this is my heaviest suit. I intentionally wore it today because I knew it'd be cold, but I have an undershirt, this shirt, and this jacket. I'm not wearing this jacket to bed, but I might end up wearing probably sweatshirt, we'll say, probably sweatpants, likely one, maybe two pairs of socks. It's going to be cold tonight, and I think by the latter part of this week, some of us are going to be wearing coats to bed. Maybe a lot of us. This is a very, very chilly week, and tomorrow, 24 for the high. I mean, you can see we're colder than the low temperature by 9 p.m. tomorrow night. So in 60 seconds, we're going to look at just how cold things are going to get. We're going to analyze, again, the extended forecast. And I don't think you want to see it, honestly. It's going to be cold. We'll break that down in more detail. We'll look at your weather pictures, and you have just flooded us with pictures today. We appreciate that. We appreciate the support that you have done. But highly encourage you to, let's do some praying. Let's be doing some taking care of our neighbors. More as Mississippi Live Weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
Frozen pipes can cause serious damage. That's why Absolute Restoration is giving away free faucet covers to our community while supplies last. Installing them is easy. Just slide the foam sleeve over your outdoor faucet and secure it snugly. Also remember to disconnect hoses, open cabinet doors under sinks, and let faucets drip during extreme cold. Call or text to check availability, and from our family to yours, please stay warm and protected.
Out with the old and in with the new. It's time to save big at Room to Room's New Year's sale. Store-wide markdowns 50 to 70% off. No tax. 48-month special financing. It's a new year at Room to Room Furniture in Tupelo. There's no place like home.
I have been going to Tupelo Smiles my whole life. When I was a kid, I was unhappy about some uneven coloring on my teeth after getting my braces off, which at the time there really wasn't a fix. I was recently made aware of a solution that would totally fix it, which is exactly what we did. They not only heard my concerns, but they never stopped looking to solve my problem, and that's why I love Tupelo Smiles.
Right now, from the Room to Room Weather Center, here's Mississippi's Chief Meteorologist, Matt Lovhawn.
Well, to a certain extent, they were the big winner of the event. Columbus missing out on most of it, but it does look like our camera lens there starting to ice up along 45 there at 18th Avenue. You're watching Mississippi Live Weather. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Loppon. We appreciate you for supporting us and for following us. And we have a very, very cold night ahead. Columbus that stayed basically above freezing point the entire time. You're down to 25. And that means behind me here, this roadway there, 45. Is it just a reflection because it's what it is, or are those damp roads freezing? I would argue that that is black ice in patches. It's not a full sheet of it. Hopefully we've dried out some, but I would not recommend traveling. That is kind of the general narrative that I have heard from every single official that I have talked to today that's been out, that's seen this firsthand. There are a lot of roads where we're trying to get the trees clear, much less is it icy or clear of ice. That's clearly one of the many issues that we have out there. Monroe County largely spared from the more significant reports of icing and power outages for that matter. Our camera there in Amory, 23 degrees right now, but the road that you see there in front of that camera lens, that is going to probably be having some slick spots out there. Anything wet will likely go frozen tonight. I'm going up north there again to Itawamba County. A spot where still some flakes flying, believe it or not, in all likelihood. And not much showing up there. But as we head back into the Delta and we check out Greenville again, snow-packed, icy roads. Looks like we've lost that camera in Greenville. That's the problem. Just so many of our cameras have gone down in this because of power outages around the area. And there's just only so much you can do. Some of the generators even at those sites have gone down as well. And we'll kind of bring things up here to South Tillow. One of the spots that lost power, let's see if our MDOT camera there does maybe look like that is updating. It is. Ice on the lens, 19 degrees in the South Tillow area at this point in time. Mississippi Live Weather, Mama Justice Doppler radar. It's just very, very light returns, very, very light snowfall with this. Red Bay stretching back toward Fulton. I had to go to complete clear air mode to kind of pick out where that was. And as far as the icing is concerned, a lot of those folks did not have as much. Now, this is 24-hour icing, and typically that would be enough. I don't think I have a product that goes back farther than that. I don't. That's the crazy thing about this. This is such a sustained duration that a graphic I typically would have shown and said, here's your ice totals, is actually going to underdo it because we had a whole bunch of icing yesterday. So in just the last 24 hours, estimations on Mississippi Live Weather Radar here, up around an inch and a half to 2 inches of ice. One of the things that in talking to storm chasers, and that of course extending out in the Delta as well, again, inch and a half of ice for some spots back there. But some of the reports up there in northwest Mississippi, northwest of where Maggie McCauley was, were actually up snowfall-wise in excess of technically qualifying as about 6 inches. I want to point this out. See how it says 10 inches? Overdone a little bit, but it wasn't snow. It was sleet, technically coating in kind of like snow, but it was sleet pellets in that. So slushy, difficult to even get through. Just as a reminder how rare the event is we just came off of. It's a once or twice in a lifetime ice storm. And, need me to tell you there's impacts with that. Now, school day forecast for tomorrow. Laughable for some, reality for others. There's a lot of you that are not going to school tomorrow. Our IMPC school day forecast for the folks that are, drop-off temperatures expected to be down in the teens, lunchtime in the low 20s. It'll never be a day that really warms up much. Unfortunately, if you're hoping for a warm-up out of this, that is not coming this time around here. And we do have a place on our website, msliveweather.com, to where you can go ahead and check out the school closings. I'll pull that up for you here for a moment. And again, the school closings listed on there. I might have to get off the camera here and see if this will let me kind of roll through some of these. But again, we do have school closings for a lot of spots, such as, I'll have to click it, and there we go. Such as Alcorn County and locations down Kossuth, Corinth School District. Again, the list that we have here, Benton County, is available to you in the Mississippi Live Weather app. There's kind of a tab in the upper corner there where we have closings listed. The number is significant, and some of the locations are pretty obvious there where we've just had so much ice and so much damage. So you can find this list Unfortunately, this is designed where it's behind me. And yes, we do also have businesses in some cases here. If you sent it in with an email address that had a, business.com, we put that on there. But Tupelo schools, some locations there in the city of Columbus, again, some timing changes, but a lot of folks, a lot of places with some major issues there. And some of it you could argue is due to the icy conditions of the roads tomorrow morning, or at least the aspect that could be a possibility that many of us couldn't experience. So you can get that list at msliveweather.com. That school day forecast, as you can see there, going to be cold for the few people that end up going tomorrow. But most of us, many of us, will not. Futurecast shows no real meaningful additional precipitation other than those few flakes in the next couple of hours. I love how this codes this in as green, which is laughable. How in the world would that be green? Anyway, at least it got yesterday right, and today. But this is maybe a rogue flake or two as it moves in. Our temperatures at the surface are just so cold. I mean, we're teens at that point. This is not going to be additional icing. That would be if it were something, maybe a couple of snowflakes. We've kind of proven that. This last little batch of flurries shows that snow-eating warm layer is out of here as our system that developed moved on in. Those northwest winds keeping it very chilly for tomorrow morning as well. Low temperatures down in Senatobia to 4. 3 in Tunica there. Clarksdale at 6, 9 in Cleveland. Go 11 in Tupelo, 10 in Houston. Very, very cold. And the thing that's just so scary about it is that, again, the peak impacts from this would just have so many people out in this zone here, power outage wise. There were very few times in my career I was more scared that someone was going to die within the next 24 hours than this, because this is extreme cold where people don't have power, and that's scary. So there are warming shelters around, and if you do feel that you're in a situation where things are getting cold enough that it might not end well for you, then at least, talking to the folks, we're going to hopefully try to get some of the folks from MEMA on and get something out maybe between broadcasts that we do that to get maybe better clarification here. But in talking to some of the folks, if you think you're in a life-threatening situation, that is a situation where you need to call 911. And so for folks that are home, maybe homebound, you got to let somebody know because hypothermia, there's already been a few deaths from this back in Louisiana earlier on today, and I just hope the numbers don't go up for what's here in North Mississippi, because it's going to be very cold tonight, and it's not like it improves a ton tomorrow. Tomorrow, we will have north winds. I left off the wind chill. Let's go back and catch wind chill for just a moment. Not that I think a lot of folks are going to willingly be going outside, but wind chill temperatures tomorrow morning are down below zero for a lot of spots, and we're 10 degrees below zero up here for Tunica, for South Haven, Senatobia. Our meteorologist, Maggie McCauley, one of the lucky ones, more in the sleet zone, so she has power, and she will be on to bring you updates related to this tomorrow morning, starting at 6:30 a.m. We'll have normal time frame for her. She'll be on 6:30, 7:30 a.m. Again, we're going to be looking at those road conditions where we still have MDOT cams at work, have power. She's going to be looking at the cold temperatures there and breaking down your full forecast. She's on every weekday morning, 6:30, 7:30 a.m. on Mississippi Live Weather. One of the lucky ones that's gotten her power back and has sustained there. I appreciate hard work, her and the entire team. You don't understand. I got the best team in TV in Mississippi, and I'm not just saying that because I'm biased. I had the best team, and I think you saw it today. We just have an incredible group of people doing something special here on Mississippi Live Weather, and just incredibly blessed to have them a part. And Maggie is important and an integral part of that team. So looking at the Futurecast, again, this is going to be kind of boring here. There's no precipitation. We're not talking about freezing lines because we're all massively below freezing. And those north winds, they are going to be just gusty enough that I think some iced over trees are going to have some issues. And we're going to probably still have a few limbs and things like that that end up falling into tomorrow. But here is the odd other potential impact out of this, right? Maybe not odd. So ice melts a little bit more quickly than snow does. And you might say, if the temperature, I'll show you the temperature here for a second. If the temperature for tomorrow is only going to get to, say, 28 Houston, 26 Tupelo, we're below freezing. How could that ice melt? Well, so through radiation. Again, the sun, it's the same way, when you feel that heat lamp in the bathroom after a shower and it's we don't have one of those. I wish we had one of those. It wouldn't work if we don't have power. But anyway, boy, is this like putting, anyway, the heat lamp, radiation. The sun uses radiation as well. If we have clear skies or clear enough, the sun will use radiation to go through that ice and heat the branch below. And it's possible then that it, from that point, starts melting around it, even if the temperature itself is below freezing. So we will probably have some, not much, but some melting. I bring that up not as to say, yay, we're going to have some melting, but instead to say that then allows that ice to fall. And so power lines, elevated surfaces that have lots of ice on it, those sheets of ice are going to be loosened, whether it's tomorrow, whether it's Tuesday, by the radiation going through it, and it might still be below freezing outside when that happens. Roofs could be, if you have a full solid sheet of ice on the roof, and it's the clearish freezing rain sort of ice, it's possible that if you have shingles below it, maybe black shingles below it, that the sun's light goes through that fairly clear ice, warms the surface below, that frees it up so that sheet falls off of your structure. So whether it is power lines or those sheets of ice, be careful and be watching above because they will fall and they can cause damage. I told this story during the ice storm itself, but I was working at a TV station in Texas one time. Ice fell off that tower there, broke a windshield all to pieces. So it can be very, very bad. So keep that in mind. It's kind of an odd side thing about we want this to melt, but as it melts, another hazard. And it seems like those hazards don't stop with this ice storm, do they? As we head into your Monday night and early Tuesday morning, our skies are completely clear. That means we have no blanket of cloud cover, and that means those temperatures are going to be pretty cold as we go throughout your Tuesday morning there. Again, we're looking at, mostly clear skies for early Tuesday, and look at these low temperatures. Down in many cases into the single digits, and in some cases near zero. I mean, I show 1 on the updated number here in Corinth, 2 in Boonville, 3 in New Albany, 4. I'm not trying to count here, though 5, 6, 7, all showing up on there in places where people are incredibly vulnerable. So use your best judgment. I don't know how travel is going to improve tomorrow. I kind of debate this a little bit because we're going to be very, very cold. But the same way in which the sun can come through and melt despite the fact we're not above freezing, because as the sun hits that surface, it actually makes that surface above freezing through that radiation process. And so I think roads could improve in some cases tomorrow somewhat. I say that to say that it might be something that where you should not travel tonight. That because of the staying cold nature, if you know somebody who's homebound or elderly and they're insistent on staying where they're at, it might be a conversation to have about moving them. Perhaps by tomorrow afternoon, maybe some of the roads improve a little bit. Can't say for sure that's going to happen. But again, it's one of those situations like when we talk about tornado warnings where you have a series of bad choices. I think what this ice storm has left us in some cases is a series of bad choices. At what point is it worth trying to chance the roads because you need to get to someplace warmer? I think tonight we let authorities, come and get us if that's something we need. And tomorrow, I think we make an assessment of whether or not we can move from point A to point D if those roads can improve somewhat, because I think in some cases they will. But Tuesday, as you can see through the day, we continue to have mostly clear skies. Again, no real issues as far as that is concerned, as we are dry and clear. We go from what has been a very active forecast to one that is pretty cool there. Again, it's going to be chilly. I do find it very fascinating. You saw how that cloud kind of emerged from Sardis Lake there. I'm interested if that maybe a little more moisture, if what that is seeing, and don't quote me on this, but if what that's seeing could actually be lake effect flakes trying to show up, or lake effect sort of like light drizzle or shower. The temperature should be above freezing, so that doesn't really line up. But I'm interested in what that model's kicking out there. That's kind of weird and kind of an interesting thing to watch. It's the first positive interesting thing I've seen in this whole forecast. Low 40s, upper 30s, typically should be mid 50s. Very, very chilly again. And as we go toward early morning on your Wednesday, we're down into the teens for lows, which would be a cold snap to begin with. And again, with the impacts, with people out of power, myself included, I don't know if we'll still have battery power by that point in time to keep broadcasting. We'll have to see. And that future wind chill, again, pretty cold. I think a lot of folks, the roads should be better, and many of us should probably be back in school, if not Tuesday morning, by Wednesday morning. And by that, I mean not in the strike zone here, that peak impact zone we talked about for days. I do think there's some spots up here, Oxford, Water Valley, Bruce. I mean, I don't think the school facilities up there in Boonville or New Albany might even have power by that point in time. So I think we could have folks out of even school for maybe a week or so, just because the facilities themselves aren't at a place where they can support people coming in. And then highs on Wednesday, not expected to be warm. Again, upper 30s. We have some spots out here where we had those more significant accumulations, only there in the low 30s. So as we look at that 7-day forecast here, we have those temperatures again. I mean, this is a very, very cold snap. The afternoons are chilly, but the mornings are just incredibly dangerous. If we're talking teens, and in some cases low teens, I mean, there's only 2 days there where I'm even 15, right? Only 2 days where I'm 15. Listen, I think we'll continue to get some guidance. I hope to be able to talk to the folks at the down at MEMA and get some guidance on what to be telling you on some of this, because this is kind of an extreme situation where we're weighing a few bad options. It's like when we're in tornado warnings, right? And it's like, okay, get into a ditch. Well, that's no, usually you want to try to get into a house. You want to get into someplace a little better. There's usually a better option here. I'm struggling to tell you what the best option is when it's this cold. You have to kind of hunker down, shelter in place, layer up, cuddle up, try to find a confined place, and try to stay warm. But I don't feel like that's great advice, but I think that's the best bad advice I can give you, if I'm just being completely honest. Now, coming up after the break, we're going to look at some of your pictures. You've got a lot of them, a 10 bajillion that you've sent in. We'll kind of take an update again, looking at some of those power outages maps, but I think we have an idea as to why some of those power outage maps haven't gotten better. That main transmission line being down, till they fix that, we have whole counties that are going to be out of power for days. Now, hopefully, the local crews that are working on it will make enough headway that we'll have large numbers come back when that transmission line comes back. But we're hunkering down for a little while. More Mississippi Live weather continues here from the Room to Room Weather Center in 60 seconds. Your pictures, look at power outages, try to answer some of your questions. And the thing I will say about the heat component of this is, if you have kerosene heat, if you have propane heat, if you have one of those fireplaces that does not vent to the outside, in all of those cases, carbon monoxide could build up in your home. And hopefully you already have a carbon monoxide detector. But it's an odorless, colorless gas that you don't realize is taking up more and more of every breath you breathe. Because all of those things that burn fossil fuels, that process of burning is a combination, it requires oxygen. And so the burning process removes oxygen from the air in the room, and in a confined room, if not properly ventilated, that means with each flicker of the flame, there's a little less oxygen in that room. And so carbon monoxide poisoning looks like a stomach flu. You feel all those sort of flu-like symptoms, but you don't have the fever. I say that because I don't know how many of you are going to continue to have power a whole lot longer. And if you still have it, it's amazing. But we want to just be aware that that could be an issue. If suddenly you start feeling sick, it might not be you just caught something. It might be carbon monoxide poisoning. So just heads up on that. Generators got to be as far away from the house as they can be reasonably, so that the fumes from that doesn't get in. Just so many different threats we're juggling right now. My thoughts and prayers are with y'all. Hopefully yours are with us. We'll be back in 60 seconds here, looking at your pictures, looking at power outages, and Mississippi Live weather continues from the Room to Room Weather Center right after this.
At First Choice Bank, we know you can't always make it before the bank closes. With our integrated teller, you can talk to a live person as late as 7 p.m. on weekdays and noon on Saturdays. It's not just an ATM, it's an ITM. First Choice Bank, your choice for banking.
When you've been injured, don't settle for a lawyer who doesn't even know where you live. Call Langston and Lott. Local lawyers, personal service, real results.
Game day brings its ups and downs. Celebration and disappointment. Anxiety and relief. Friends and enemies. You can always argue over who should have won, but everyone can agree on great food. Appetizers, entrees, drinks, party platters, or even the taste of sweet victory. There's something for every season at Eat With Us restaurants.
Welcome back to Mississippi Live Weather here at 6 p.m. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Loppong. We've had kind of a long run of it the last couple of days. And unfortunately, seeing the things that we did not want to see, golly, you know, all week long, people wanted to know if I thought it was like 94. And to be honest, I wasn't here in 94, so I did not have a frame of reference. Did I think it could be based on the mythology of what people said? Yes. I mean, especially by Friday, when we started looking at these 2 and 3 inch ice accumulation totals, it's like, yeah, I mean, that is absolutely on the table as a possibility. But man, I mean, these are trees with significant damage. These are power outages for a long period of time. This is a big cold freeze. And you guys have really shown out on sending in your pictures. Please start, conserving the amount of electricity you have on your phone. I'll say that as well. I think that's an important part. But using the Mississippi Live Weather app, which you can download for all those devices, again, for Android devices, iOS devices, that's how you have sent these in from all across North Mississippi. And I mean, listen, at my house here, this is Manteep, pine trees snapping. Webster County wasn't exactly in the bullseye on this. It was in our peak impact zone. And I can show you that graphic again, but I think we're done with that. But Manteep, yeesh, that's that's bad. And that's so much of what these are. This trees. I mean, this is not, a pine tree. This is not a young tree. This is a fairly established, very established old hardwood tree. You just can't take the ice. And you factor in the fact that we've had a little bit of wind on the backside of this, that can cause more troubles. We got a before and after picture from Nettleton here. Again, showing in that case, the ground completely frozen over versus the wet that we had. And that means, again, that clear layer of ice. Appreciate that picture coming in from the Nettleton area. I mean, there is a certain amount of we like the flocked Christmas trees and that look. And it was about 2.5 hours ago, I finally actually went out to the porch and looked out, and the eeriness of the wind going through the trees and the crackling and then the pops. It's a unique experience, one that I hope I never get the experience as well. But again, a large tree there, and there's so many of those pine trees. The pine trees just the most impacted by this. They just have all those pine needles. It's easy for them to go. But look at this, and this is how some of our roads are going to look. This is Boonville, and Prentice County was hit very, very hard by this. It's a beautiful shot. I'm sure this would have been a great road to look at if you didn't have all the limbs that were coming down. And it's just scary, because imagine trying to go down that road. Imagine being a first responder trying to go down that road. I mean, what's our option? Do we need to cut every one of these limbs on our way to somebody's house that needs it? And these folks are having to try to navigate this and try to put this back together. That's going to be a while before that's the case. Again, so many of your pictures showing that ice accumulations here. The good example is we talked over and over again about that radial icing. And this is an example of that radial icing where it stuck to it. And what is that? About half an inch, maybe a little more than half an inch around on that is kind of what I'm looking at there. Sorry, I'm going to have to reposition that monitor maybe up front, so it's not like I'm not looking at you the entire time here. But that's significant radial icing as well. A location on that. We'll see again, update. Again, you guys are sending in pictures so fast. Hard for me to keep up with the newest ones there. That's Alcorn County, Tuscumbia Bottom there. This a drone shot here from way up high of just a huge tree. Just, smacked the ground and went to pieces, and you're not getting around that. That's one, there's enough ice on and unpredictability that you might need professionals to come in and chop that one up to do it the right way there. Appreciate that picture coming in. Again, the drone shot from Lafayette County, which was hit just so very, very hard. talking to the Oxford Mayor Robin Tannehill, who said that, it's reasonable. This was worse than 94 there. And I think in some spots it probably was. There's another shot again, lots of trees across the roadway. How are you supposed to get from point A to point B? So even if the roads were passable slickness wise, or you're not getting across that. I got a chainsaw. I like to cut something with that chainsaw. I'm not going to lie. But that's a lot. And that's what folks are dealing with, trying to get this back together. Let's double check the name on that there. It keeps popping me back on the top of the page because you keep submitting all of the pictures. And I think I lost where that was in the list there. Got some folks trying to stay inside. But Ecru there, this is Pontotoc County. I was talking to a friend, and one of the things that we were talking about is, there's some places I haven't heard a whole lot out of today, and that's probably a bad sign. Pontotoc County is one of those. Again, everybody's out of power there. And just look how bent over these trees are, completely coated with ice. Just some rough stuff. One of the things about sending pictures, I kind of learned this at the TV station over the years. People send in all it's happy sort of pictures on a snow day. These are critically bad pictures as all the trees there over top of that downtown Corinth sign are bent over. Of course, you can join the conversation here behind the scenes at Mississippi Live Weather, and we appreciate all the folks who have done that. Stores barely have food, someone's mentioned. Most bought out before. We could get there. Any suggestions on where to get food without needing to cook it? So you say that, and I'll see if I can find this in my messages from earlier, and it's probably going to take me a minute to get back to that. So give me just a moment. One of the things that Governor Tate Reeves talked about earlier today when he gave an update on the number of power outages is the fact that, again, there are about 58 warming shelters. I'm going to have to learn to say that. Across the state, but also in that same discussion that there are 60,000 meals ready to eat as soon as road conditions allow. So the problem is that road conditions, as we've shown on a lot of these pictures, might not allow it for a while longer. Because, there's just tree limbs down every place else. And 60,000 meals is a lot, but there's a lot of people that don't have what they need on this. So I'm hoping that's enough to last. And again, this is kind of the initial wave. I do need to say this. One of the things in talking to U.S. Senator Cindy Hyde-Smith, we had the opportunity to talk with her briefly as she was out near some of her cattle, trying to make sure they were warm enough. Again, dealing with the same cold that all of us are dealing with, is that, the federal response is in action, in motion. It just now takes the ability to get to those spots. Disaster declarations have been made by both Governor Tate Reeves as well as President Trump. So the funds have been freed up, and now it's just a matter of being able to get them to the end location. I think I just lost that one to my next page because someone else sent in more pictures. I want to check out this one here. This is County Road 252. I need to double check the location on which County Road 252. That would be Union County Road 252. Go back to gallery mode and see if that'll pop up there. Listen, that has Winter Wonderland vibes, but that is sleet, that is ice. That is not one that I'm going to want to go down anytime soon. So we're not on our own. Let's be clear on that. The help is on the way. But to answer, very long-winded, answer the question, what do you do? I think there's going to be some hungry folks tonight. But in talking to some of the, I think it was Scott Hendricks with the Tom Bigby Electric Power Association, what he said, and actually, no, it might have been Rick with the Boy Scouts. Anyway, we've talked to a lot of people today, trying to keep them all straight. Your body is more efficient at generating heat if it's full, and if it's full of both water as well as food. It's going to do a better job of that. So it doesn't help your situation, but if you have the option, it is something that, make sure you're eating enough. But these pictures, it's just sad. Heading at it with a chainsaw to clean up some. Elawana, Rosie there. This is County Road 252. I think that might be also Union County as well. That's even if they get that clean, there's just enough going on up here with these tree limbs. I'm not sure that I'm too terribly excited trying to navigate down that road there because you could knock one of those down. Scary stuff. That's for sure. So you've sent in all these pictures, and we appreciate that. I want to go over kind of the rugged behind the scenes where I'm going to have to close out these pictures because I only have so much RAM on this computer, and I've used a lot of it up today. There we go. Okay, so let's check out some of these electric power associations. And let's say this. Progress will be slow at times. It will be faster at others, but this number is less than it was earlier. So the folks that hit very hard with Northeast Electric Power Association, one of the hardest hit areas, Lafayette, Union, Pontotoc counties, stretching up into Tippah, and then obviously Alcorn, Tishomingo, and Prentiss counties. Obviously a lot of ones on there, a lot of those final mile going to take a while. Fixes are going to be necessary. Still about 1,500 members with the Tallahatchie Electric Power Association. And again, that's I think it was Public Service Commissioner Chris Brown that mentioned, to have that many for such a small area is significant. Tippah County, pretty much everybody's out, and this is one of those that we believe is one of the transmission lines. Prentiss County, nothing has changed here. We think that's the big TVA transmission line. Hopefully the folks in the field have been able to get out and start hooking up the crews to make that a little better. We think Tishomingo County is probably also in the same boat. That's why this line, which shows progress there, which is always something that kind of generates hope. I love showing the 4-county one. I've done that for years because it shows, okay, things are going down. The reason this has stayed the same is even if they have made repairs in Tishomingo County, if the transmission line coming in isn't energized, and the one that the electric power gets, we're talking the big one from TVA, if that's not there, that's not energized, and there's nothing they can do. Power's not coming on until TVA gets that done. And they're going to work as fast as they can. But it's not going to be done overnight. It's not going to probably be done this week. I don't know that for sure. I've heard what you've heard on that, and it doesn't sound pleasant. We'll check out Entergy. We'll come back to Entergy here in a minute. We don't think that's one of them that was implied by that TVA line, obviously. A lot of folks still out, about 3,700 here for Grenada, as well as Calhoun, Webster, parts of Chickasaw, and southern Pontotoc County there. A lot of those still out. 4-county, again, making progress. This is that line, sometimes called a histogram here, that shows over time how they are getting a better handle on what they're doing and trying to get all the power outages out. But there's just a lot of single outages as well. It's not just, one big line, we flip it, we're done, we're better. That just is what takes just so much time. Tom Bigby, this looks, again, some improvements there. That number, when I talked to Scott Hendricks with Tom Bigby Electric Power Association around midday today, that number was close to 6,000. They've got it down to 5,000. That's 1/6 better than it was, which is probably at least one household or two households less than we wish it would be. But that's just part of it. They're going to get on as fast as they can. And again, a fairly large, widespread outage here on kind of the north side. I do think that might be a grouped outage as opposed to a bunch of individuals. Sometimes they'll say that. Theirs doesn't particularly say that, but I'm betting that's kind of a grouped outage there. And then obviously Pontotoc County, it's bad there from Pontotoc back in northern Calhoun. So all the operators of electric cooperatives there seeing that. I said we come back to Entergy. We'll look back at Entergy now. And we're not alone. I mean, you have some pretty good cities back there in Louisiana. That's Monroe, Louisiana, a fairly populated city with outages. And again, significant outages throughout the Delta from Yazoo City back to Greenville, back all the way to Grenada and Greenwood and Belzona and Leland, Durant. Again, just widespread outages there, not easy to fix outages. And that's just why the expectation should be. We have to set this in our mind right now. If we're so used to the power comes back on in a couple minutes, a couple hours, we need to adjust the expectation that there are some of us that are going to be out of power for weeks. If we set in our mind, 94 is bad, it took a couple weeks, 2026 is going to take a couple weeks, and it comes on tomorrow, great, something went well. But we have to make sure in our brain that we set in our mind that, this is going to be for a while. I don't have Alcorn County Electric on there as well, but Alcorn County Electric, 100% out. 100%. Again, part of that, the damage they saw, and part of that probably that big that big line coming in, that main TVA line, and the issues that, these local power cooperatives just can't do anything about that. You either have power coming to your system or not, right? I can have everything plumbed correctly in my house, and if I can have it plumbed correctly, but if I'm not getting water from the water system, it doesn't make a difference. One more thing, I'll show some more pictures. We'll answer some questions as best we can here. But one more thing, let's talk about water. So I'm going to go back to the 7-day forecast here for a moment. These are really, really cold temperatures, and absolute restoration. Again, one of our partners, they're giving these away, or at least they were giving these faucet covers away. I mean, we're probably past faucet covers at this point here. That was something falling outside. Hopefully that wasn't big. I mean, I guess big things make big noises, right? With these temperatures this cold, we're probably going to have pipes bursting in some homes, because it's probably going to be hard to keep those temperatures within a reasonable level. As my wife goes to look and see which tree fell. You're staying on the porch, right? Okay. That's the problem. We're going to look at winds here in a second, and then we can do pictures. But I'm really interested to see which tree it was. Okay, back on target for a second here. I apologize. A little distracted again. This is a reminder. Almost everybody we talk to today also doesn't have power at their house. We're talking officials here. They just don't have power at their house as well. So we're in good company. Okay. So we're all kind of facing the same issues. Let me get back on target here. Pipe bursts. Very real possibility. And so in talking to a friend of mine that was a plumber earlier today, one of the things that he mentioned was that if you think your temperatures in your house or where those pipes are running could go below freezing, if you can't heat the house, which you can't when the power is out, then you need to go turn the water off, perhaps at nights, down toward the street, or at wherever the meter is, so that way you don't have pipe bursts back up at the house. Hadn't thought about that, but even if you have a burst, that then doesn't cause tremendous damage as well. So there's just so many things to keep track of. And if my brain wasn't fried, I'd have made you a good checklist. So I apologize that I don't have a great one for you there. Let's look at wind speeds for a moment. I can't see anything. I don't know why I take off my glasses. I can't see anything without them on. Let's look at wind speeds. We're going to look at future wind gusts. Now, we're going to do future sustained wind speeds. So I feel like the gusts have overdone things just a little bit. I know you probably want to see like the worst case scenario, or maybe the best case scenario. I'd like it to be the best case scenario. But on the wide shot here, and I think the wide shot's probably the better one to look at it, you can see sustained wind speeds somewhere around 13 to 15 miles per hour. We are going to look at wind gusts in a second here. That's enough that you should be getting wind gusts to 25 or so, possibly out of this for the peak wind gust. But overnight, somewhere around 10 to 15 mile per hour winds, it's going to be fairly breezy. And those breezy conditions could cause additional trees to fall. So, and someone was saying in Tupelo, I'm just a hint north of Tupelo. We're on the north side. We border the city limits. We're right there. I want to look at one of the less appealing sort of models, not models, but sort of views that I can show on this, because it'll show me the wind speed, and I want to make sure I have the exact wind speed right. So I want to make sure I'm telling you the truth on this here. So let's take this. We'll come back over to this computer here. So this one, got to take the zoomed in view that we've used on this. Okay, there we go. So I am presently looking, one more time, display capture, so I can get, that's the right one. Drag it down. Nope, that didn't work. There we go. So what I'm looking at is up here into Arkansas. So counties highlighted in red, that'd be Tupelo there, that'd be Monroe County, that'd be Lowndes and Oktibbeha County. That's Greenville back there. So kind of orient ourselves. So the winds mainly out of kind of a northwest direction, sustained wind speeds when you have the one full flag now that's 10 miles per hour. We have a little half flag that is 5 miles per hour. And when it's just a little circle like that, that is 0 miles per hour. So I see some spots up there. I think that's probably Jonesboro, Arkansas there at 15 mile per hour sustained winds. So 10 to 15 mile per hour sustained winds with gusts that are probably going to be 20, 25. That is going to bring down some additional trees overnight. So I don't know about 94, but what I can tell you is in an ice storm, if the winds pick up on the back side of that system, and because this one kind of developed right overhead, that is an expectation that then we could continue to have some trees fall through the night and possibly into the day tomorrow. So we're hopeful that's not the case, but I anticipate that will be the case for some spots, including probably right here where my house is. Just hopefully, one of the concerning things for me, so I always have an angle. And when we built our house, I wanted to keep trees fairly close by because I grew up in Kansas. We didn't have any trees. Amazing trees we built right in the middle of the woods during COVID. Different story on that. But anyway, I intentionally kept a buffer where we have less trees to the west and southwest, knowing that's where our severe thunderstorms come from. And most of our damaging wind events may have some northwest. But I kept them fairly close on the north side because I was like, we don't very rarely have north winds that I'm going to have to worry about bringing down these trees. Thought of almost everything. I didn't think about an ice storm and the north winds behind it here. So they're 40 feet away, 50 feet away, but they're 80 feet tall. So we will hope they collapse where they're at and not out this direction here. We'll see how that goes. Let me mute my watch again because that's something that's been a deal. I've gone 56 minutes. Apologize for just talking your ear off today. Hopefully that's okay with you. Watching with your house with the power out, getting cold in your house, Mary. I get it. Usually this is one of the hottest rooms in the house. I blocked off the heat up there at the top before. I've got a lot of computers in here to warm things up. It's getting kind of chilly in here as well. So I'm feeling for you. You could say we're in the same boat with you as well, unfortunately. We're going to look at some more of your pictures that you have sent in from across North Mississippi. I'm going to go back again to the kind of most recent batch here. So to get and before I do that, this is just what so many of these look like. Again, split trees that aren't going to look the same. And I will say this as well. There are going to be parts of these trees that were damaged that when we get severe thunderstorms are probably going to blow off and blow down then. So it starts off with ice storm damage, but it doesn't completely take it out. And then we get a big wind event, and now we have more trees that fall then. We might not draw the straight line from A to B on that, but we'll probably end up having more tree damage reports. Maybe not this year, possibly this year, maybe more next year for trees that were injured and killed by this ice storm, and it finally takes them down with that. So we expect we'll probably have some more of those. I worry about those along public right-of-ways, like the roadways that could be a little trickier for some spots as well. Let's go back to the more recent pictures that you have sent in, and so many of them like this. Just a sign of just look at all the droopy pines. Iced over, broken limbs there on the ground. In some cases, just broken trees. It's unfortunate to see so many of these. And I appreciate you. I'm going to try to get more in, which means I'm probably not going to call out everyone's name, but I want to show as many of those as I can. Again, the icing, the icicles there, just that sign of so often during this event, people are like, it's just raining. No. It is rain that hits the ground, but it's the freezing temperatures that makes it freezing rain. So when you have freezing rain, which is what an ice storm essentially is, it's rain that then freezes, not necessarily instantaneously. I think we've done a disservice sometimes as meteorologists, making it sound like that's instantaneous. But here in Coffeyville, this picture here again showing some of that freezing rain. But what is it doing? Excuse me, the ice. This is a tree right there on the power lines. And that probably, hit a circuit, and that's what caused some power outages there. And there's just so many of these. It's just going to take a long time trying to figure it out. My job is tripping, telling us we got to come to Tupelo. I don't know what to tell you on that one. I'll tell you that I intentionally position my people remotely, but our line of work allows that. So, do I think, I'm not going to tell you what I think your employer should do, but I'm saying that I think the roads are going to be dangerous to treacherous. The best case scenario for travel tomorrow morning is icy roads. The worst case for travel tomorrow morning is going to be icy roads that then are blocked, and then you have to try to turn around and go a different way. So, if this were just icy roads, it would be bad. But this is icy roads that then have the possibility of projectiles falling on you. No, you don't need to be going to work tomorrow. Maybe that's what I need to do. I'll write it here. I'll write you your excuse note. Now, guarantee your boss is probably going to reject this and fire you if you give it to him. But I'm going to write down here, excuse note. I'll write you one up. I'll put that on social media here in just a little bit. We'll give your excuse note. I just don't think the people will necessarily take that. But again, on the power lines there, and just the roads littered with trees. I mean, how are you getting to work there, right? And that's a little more sleet. If I were guesstimating where this is, that could be Tippah County. That might actually be more Panola County. Now, let's find out where that is. As I'm just based on just like precipitation guesses there. Pontotoc County. See, that's a little bit more sleet than I would have expected there. Thaxton area, Pontotoc County. It was Western Pontotoc County, but still shot here again. Those power lines. Melinda sending this shot here. Again, the power lines and the branches all over it, and likely they were arcing and possible that I don't know that we're necessarily going to snap a lot of power lines at this point here with the wind. Maybe push them enough if that's the case. We're more likely to take trees into power lines if we have additional outages. We just have so many of them out there that it's rough. Okay, I'm somewhat caught up on a couple of those. I mean, granted, if I just went ahead here, I mean, I guarantee you there are hundreds I haven't seen. There's my first. I'm going to show a selfie. I'm going to show everyone outside by it. It just happens so infrequently. I haven't had any pictures of people in it. I like to have the pictures of people in it. So there we go. Kind of a pretty shot with the kids behind something that obviously is less pretty, but it's a rarity. And this, whether we like it or not, was a memory-making event. Your kids are going to remember it. My kids will just remember Dad was yelling a lot, probably. Dad was snapping at us a lot. So I apologize to them. And y'all, I got to say this again. I have the best wife in the world who let me build a studio in the house and then let me completely ignore her the day before her birthday, the day of her birthday, the day after her birthday, and the day after that. My wife is the best woman I know. Your wife ain't got nothing on her. Anyway, that's that. But just so many trees, cracked and broken and on the roads. It's going to take a long cleanup period here. Love you, babe. Love you, babe. You had to be there. Okay. So let's look at your questions. Power out in Baldwin, 19 hours already, and praying for our linemen. Yeah, we got to pray for them because you think about this, this has to be done right as they're putting the power back on. Because if it's not, they could get hurt, they could get killed, you cause all sorts of other problems. And I will say this about generators. It's probably not an issue at this instant because there's still a lot of lines that aren't energized. But for those folks out there that have generators, they have to be used properly and carefully because they can backfeed the line and then that can kill a lineman trying to hook things back up. So be very forthcoming with the people when they come over. If you got a generator, you got to be straight up and let them know. One of the things that Scott Hendricks with the Tom Bigby Electric Power Association said when I was talking to him was that they first thing they do when they get to their site is they get quiet and they listen. They listen to see if they can hear a generator so that hopefully they have a threshold there to be able to know, okay, something's going on. That last picture there from Jackson with that split tree in front of the school where kids are not going to school tomorrow. And we'll see if it happens this week. But yeah, they listen for generators because generators, your generator, your convenience. And let's be clear, in some cases, the thing that will protect your family's life next couple of days, trying to keep things warm inside. Not you can necessarily really run heaters off of those. but that could kill somebody else if not properly installed. So let's think about those people who are risking their lives with underneath trees like this, trying to get them off lines, trying to get our power back on. Let's just be respectful of that sacrifice that they're making, being away from their families and going through things, and just be respectful, not have the generators. This Oxford there, again, some of the tree damage there in the Oxford area. And it's just, I mean, it's more. We could do this all night, but these are big trees. Let's see this one here. I'm curious. That's Ashley Leonard. Hey, Ashley. Where'd she send it from? She sent it from Lafayette County? Bet she did. Yeah, west side of Lafayette County there. Ashley is a former intern of mine from over at the TV station. Loved Ashley. Sorry about your lawn. Sorry about your trees there. One of the funniest interns I've ever had. Anyway, had a lot of good ones over the years. And we've had a lot of great people. I want to give a shout out to my crew here in what's going to be the funniest set of pictures you'll see. We have Caleb, who was with me all day today. Maggie, whose power was in and out. She will be back tomorrow morning and ready at 6:37, 7:30 a.m. again to get you up to date on, again, where power outages stand. By the way, I did not expect improvement there. Maybe we'll be surprised, but I think we're going to have some issues with that. But 6:30, 7:30 a.m. She's on Monday through Friday. She was an incredible help over the course of this weekend, as was Caleb. And then our meteorologist, Gabe Maynor. He got the best of all of the, I guess, you want to call it a selfie shot. Gabe was leaning forward. He was working on something, and his power went off. It froze, and that's the image we've had. So we appreciate Gabe again. My first employee here at Mississippi Live Weather. He came with me. He believed in something, and we're thankful that he did, and we're thankful that you did as well. Let's answer some of your questions. Let's bring up your chat. Hit the wrong chat button. You couldn't hear anything I was saying. One of the questions that tickled me a little bit was Matt getting heated. You're yelling at your 3-year-old. The only people I've got heated with today were probably my children, who had this tendency to, again, the living room's right outside of the room I'm in right now. And there's this safe netting of electrical cords going to different devices in the house here. And it seemed like they always went to the room with the heat in it, right when I was getting ready to interview somebody or come and do a cut-in. And I'm like, oh, God, don't you know what I'm doing here? We'll all get along. We'll all make it. But as we said last week, by Friday night, you need to get with the crew of people that you want to be with for the weekend. This is my crew, regardless of how much we grate on each other's nerves. I wouldn't trade any of them for anybody else. Audio should be back and everything. Yeah, that Gabe. So I do know that someone was asking, do I know if the big 500 kilovolt line was down? The last information I had, I think it was 161 kilovolt line that was down. I'm not an electrician. I don't have a huge frame of reference there, but yeah. Hold on, I want to stop there. Brian Falls, mentioning their paramedic here. Look right next to me on the screen there, right? Paramedic here. Exposure over time might lead to symptoms when we talk about carbon monoxide that can be mistaken for the flu without a fever. So you feel like the flu without a fever. Clearer symptoms of those might include headache, weakness, dizziness, nausea or vomiting, shortness of breath, confusion, blurred vision, sleepiness, loss of muscle control, and loss of consciousness. Screenshot that. If you got your phone, just it's the volume button, the power button, same time. Screenshot it, just in case. That might be something you need. But yeah, it's just going to stay frozen for a few days. Yeah, it just is. Okay. Is it safe to go to the casino? Is your wallet ever safe at a casino? Because as I tell my children, and this is no offense to people who own casinos who definitely aren't watching this, but they don't build those places on winners. So I don't know if it's ever safe to go to a casino. The only person safe to go to a casino is somebody who lives in Noxubee County or Lowndes County tonight, because out of everybody else, y'all missed most of it. Congratulations. So I'm not going to write you a note to tell your wife that I said you could go to the casino, but the odds worked out in your favor. Pine trees constantly snapping in Manatee sounds creepy and terrifying. It really does. It's a noise that people have described to me over the years that until you see it, it's kind of hard to believe it. Yeah, it's going to be a cold one there. Snow flurries south of Grenada. Yeah. Gabriel, it might be that line. I don't know for sure if it's that 500 kilovolt line, but I do know it's one of the really big ones. And it took like a really, really, really big tree to do it, supposedly. I don't have, again, firm confirmation on that as well. But something that, I can't remember who said that, if that was my Storm Chaser friend or if that was one of the officials. It's all starting to blur together at this point here. When will the big winter thaw start? You know what? Let's look. Let's go too far out, right? We've gone through something. I'm not afraid. Let's just say this. Unfortunately, we were more right than I would have liked to be. I was sincere last night when I said that I prayed that I was wrong and we were wrong on this. Unfortunately, that was not the case. But if we look beyond, let's see, GFSTEMP, regional temps, 168 hours. And I should be able to make this go 300 odd hours out. And again, I don't always agree with this model. What is it? It's 3. So be prepared for this to be something I disagree with completely. I don't have a lot of input in the short term. I think the thing, though, as you'll note here, short term, cold, 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 colder with another front. Again, back down single digits. Cold, single digits. Teens, kind of stuck teens. I'm interested to see what that looks like. I'm going to look at something else here in a second. I'll tell you exactly what this is. And I have not looked out to next Monday. This would be a week from Monday out. But I'll tell you without telling you exactly what that is. See how this day here, all of a sudden, it just kind of stays put? No, actually, no. That still has some of the snowfall, this current snowfall. That's what this is. This blue you see down here, it's still showing the current snow and ice pack on the ground there, at least in this model, all the way a week from now. I think that's aggressive. But there we go. This would be, what is this, the 3rd? That's showing a thaw, about the 3rd. And maybe 4th, we're getting manageable. 5th or so. There. I don't believe models when they are, what is that, the 8th of, the 8th of February. So let's just say this. We've got a week to 10 days of not pleasant, unfortunately. You know, I see a person next to me says they pray for every homeless person. We do as well. This is going to be a dangerous situation. Any good source for finding estimated ice data from the entire storm? You know, I might be able to hack this together. Hold on. We might be able to put this together. So give me just a second. I need this. And we'll look at, this is the last 24 hours of data. But I should be able to force that to go back 24 hours before that. What if I go back, let's see here, last 24 hours. So last 24 hours, here's about how much ice we had seen. Again, in the last, and this is estimations. I do think this is probably overdone a little bit, because I have not seen that radial icing. We might have had this fall from the skies freezing something. But, you know, in the neighborhood there, on a fairly widespread scale of probably more than an inch in the last 24 hours. And then if you go 24 hours before that, what it had, possibly another inch or so in there for some spots. We will end up seeing. Okay, so here is here's a statement from the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency as we tried to kind of reach out and try to get some information from them that they sent in a little bit ago. So thank you for reaching out. We are busy working with our counties and responding to this winter weather event. Governor Tate Reeves, and this is directed specifically Matt Lawpon. Thank you for reaching out. We are very busy working with our counties and responding to this winter weather event. Governor Tate Reeves, along with MEMA Executive Director Stephen McCraney and MDOT Executive Director Brad White, held a press conference at 4 p.m. We talked about that earlier to provide information to update on the winter storm. You can watch it here. Thank you. Okay, so I guess we'll let stand what let stood before, which is if you think like you're in a situation where perhaps you could be in bad shape, you need to probably call 911. I don't have better information from MEMA, so I think that's what we'll go with. Okay, drivable come Friday. Dear God, I hope. I think for quite a few spots, Ackerman, 3.5 inches of rain, and the decent chunk of that was ice. Man, by the way, there are flurries out there. I've been on this for a long time. Let's go back to this and clear off all of that. By the way, this is not current. That was 24 hours ago. Remember, I went back 24 hours ago. This is current. And so, yeah, the funny thing is, after all this said and done, we have just a little bit of snow flurries out there at this time on kind of these northerly winds. You know what's interesting? This is one of those scenarios tonight where, do we have a north-south lake? Do we have a north-south lake? Okay. It's possible, not impossible, that some spots on the south side of Bay Springs Lake tonight, and again, this is a very isolated location where there's not a lot of people and probably nobody that can see me, but along a north-south waterway like that, we could have some lake effect snow tonight. In fact, that might be exactly what's going on there. Watch this. See that? That might be lake effect snow. Flurries. Not going to really accumulate like it would on a big lake, but Mississippi's going to Mississippi, right? Okay. Someone's saying, power companies are the best place to ask about power coming back on. I'll say this, in most cases, they're doing their best. I don't know if asking them is going to help. There's no priority list. Let's be clear. I'm broadcasting to you, and I'm not saying I'm a bigger priority to you than you, but some might see it that way, and my power's not on. So, they will go in the order that makes the most sense for the system. That's one of the things that Chris Brown with TVA said, not TVA, with the Northern District Public Service Commissioner, Chris Brown said, is that, it might not make sense the order in which everything's reconnected, but it's the way in which the grid is set up. So sometimes, it will be someone across the street, and then someone down the block, and someone over there, and someone over there, and you're still out. And that's just the way the grid was built. Sometimes that happens. I know my old employer has electricity right now, and I'm a mile down the road and I don't. And I don't think there's any kind of preference going on there as well. I just think that's the way in which the grid was set up. Or I hope it was. Okay. How about Tupelo? Getting flurries. We're going to have some flakes out there this evening. When in doubt, call 911. I want to point that out. Brian Falls, second comment I'm going to point out at Brian's, when in doubt, call 911. And as an adult, maybe we need to tell you that, because as I was a kid, I was told, never call 911 unless it's an absolute emergency. Okay? So a few years back, we had what was kind of an emergency. Maybe it was an absolute house on fire or somebody's heart attack emergency, but it was an emergency. And I was like, I need the background number for the sheriff's office. And they're like, call 911. I was like, but you don't call 911 unless it's an absolute emergency. Well, the scenarios we're talking about tonight potentially are, if you're in a location and it's too cold, and especially if you're weaker immune system or the elderly or your oxygen's off or something very, very important, that's an absolute emergency. Call 911. I'm telling you because sometimes we need someone else to tell us that that's an absolute emergency. And freezing to death is an absolute emergency. Let's see here. North Alabama here. Sometimes we get lake effects though off of the Tennessee River. That's true. I don't know if the angle, it might work out there. Up close to Pickwick Lake, you might be able to pull off that. Yeah, Pickwick Lake pull that off. And looking at it, some of the branches over there on Sardis, and especially kind of going crosswise across Grenada Lake, might be able to pull off a little lake effect snow there as well. And there is a priority for tier one, businesses and operations like hospitals, nursing homes, the things that are absolutely necessary. And communications companies fall in that. It's the reason, the TV station has their power back. I don't know what that means, but okay. Appreciate your shout out there to everyone. 100% of Alcorn County has no power. Lots of trees down. Roads are very, very bad. And I understand someone says, is there a possibility of losing power tonight with everything freezing over? Just a mom worrying about keeping her babies warm. The likelihood of losing power tonight would be for locations that had extreme ice the last couple of days. You know what we're talking about. You've looked at it outside. If you've had that extreme ice and we get some wind gusts, it's still possible that additional people could lose power tonight. But if you're, say, just in Columbus, where you didn't really see ice and it's getting cold, you're probably not going to lose power. Now, there's the other end of this, which is the TVA demand that we will see, because when you're talking about temperatures in the teens and this cold for so long, that does use up a lot of electricity. And so hopefully TVA's got a plan in place to keep up with the demand. Certainly talking to Northern Public Service Commissioner Chris Brown a little earlier on, he said, that this, he was contrasting this. This is not a demand issue. This is an outage issue for a lot of these spots. Feel like I should probably wrap this up for my wife's sake. Take a little break. She rolls her eyes like anything's been for her sake the last couple of days. Haven't mentioned the flood warnings. Thank you. Who was that? Heather Palmer says, what happens when the ice melts? Is there flood warning going out? I don't know. So that's actually a really good question. So let's look at the flood warnings. Because there are a few locations where we do have those out. And so you can see those for locations. Monroe County. I thought we had Clay County earlier, but maybe that one has gone by the wayside. But Monroe County here near I think that's Buttahatchee River. And then same spot up here, Tombigbee River, I think adjacent to the Bigby area, both with flood warnings. When you do get heavy rainfall amounts like what we've had the last couple of days, those do tend to be issued. Let's look at some of the rainfall totals over the last couple of days. Accumulation, we'll look at 48-hour rainfall. Well, let's look at 24-hour rainfall. Just in the last 24 hours, you can see the quantity of rain that we have had. We'll bring it back to the final scan here. And so, liquid precipitation, there's some spots a little more than others, but this is why I believe, again, and we've only heard so much out of these folks because there's so much damage up here. This is the band right here that in the last 24 hours took out all these counties. Pontotoc had plenty as well. So did Prentiss, but this is the one band there. 2 inches of liquid precipitation. That means in probability we had more than 2 inches of ice in about 24 hours, and over the whole 40-ish hours of the event, more than that. In some cases that beats 94, making this potentially the ice storm of record, and certainly one that I know I'm not going to forget for a very long time. I think many of you won't as well. If you look at the total rainfall accumulation last 72 hours, hold on. I don't know if that's updated. That's not right. Oh, unless I have a different scale on this. Nope, that's wrong. We'll have to figure out what's up with that. That's not right, though. So, a lot of rainfall, and that makes a difference. Okay, any more questions here? Certainly, we expect that roads will continue to be troublesome. ICE has continued to have power outages. You're going to have questions. We will do the best we can to answer those questions. I got to sit down. I've been going at this for a few days. This is what we do. This is what God made me for. This is why God let me stay here. This is why y'all rescued me. And so I'm indebted to you for that. And hopefully what we have done has been some kind of service to you over the course of the last few days and has made a difference. And certainly our prayers are with all of you, all of us, but all of you that don't have power at this time. And I'll say this one last time. Support these sponsors in the corner here or any of the commercials that you watch on Mississippi Live Weather, because the only way that we can keep doing this is if you support them, because this is advertising for them. Now, in some cases, this is more than advertising. In fact, most cases, they have elected to come with us early on because this is about more than advertising. But they're also all people who have employees of their own and run businesses and do things that are in the best interest of those businesses as well. We had no one say, hey, we're going to pull our advertising if you don't have a zillion viewers. That's not why they're doing it. But the reality is that they also have to watch the bottom line. And so they have stepped out in faith to help us. And we're asking you to do the same for them, to show them that you appreciate them and what they're doing to support us here on Mississippi Live Weather. So support them, and we'll be able to keep doing this. We'll see you upcoming at 10 o'clock. Again, we'll be looking at updates on those temperatures at 10, seeing if they're on track or if we're going even colder than expected. All that here in the Room to Room Weather Center, 5, 6, 10 p.m. We're on all weekdays. We'll be on all those days this week. And Maggie's on starting 6:30 a.m. tomorrow morning. And let me beg you for the 10 millionth time, if you don't have power, please don't tune in tonight at 10. I don't know how much more information I'm going to be able to tell you on those power outages. And I think by tomorrow morning, Maggie will have more than I do as well. But we're working to try to get updates all the time. Hopefully we have something. But save your battery power, please. We'll see you at 10 o'clock, especially those that have power, here in the Room to Room Weather Center. Have a great night.
March 24th, 2023 was a normal Friday. We knew the weather was not good, but we needed to take shelter, and we didn't have shelter. My husband and almost 2-year-old daughter, Ethan and Riley, they did lose their lives in the storm. We're still recovering from it. We'll always be recovering from it. Matt Lopon cares about the community. He's not just there to collect a paycheck. I feel like Matt Lopon has proven himself trustworthy.